Hi there, welcome to kneppyinvests. In this video, I'll be focusing on one of my favorite companies on the ASX, and that is AVA Group. And the reason why it's one of my favorite companies is I have been a long-term shareholder of this company, and they've done fairly well for me ever since I took a position. Now, the share price over that period of time has been rising, but in recent times, the share price has been dropping. In fact, you could say the share price is in a short to medium term downtrend. So some shareholders have become nervous, thinking the market is seeing something in this company that they're completely missing. But I was just reading an article the other day, and there are some reason or possible reasons while AVA's share price has been dropping, while other small cap companies that are not profitable, not operational cash flow positive, which is unlike AVA Group, their share price has been rising. So I'll show you those possible reasons and also show you their most recent Appendix 4C for Q3. But before we get there, let's have a look at some of the facts around this company. Now, the ticker code for AVA Group is natural enough, AVA. Couldn't be anything else in my opinion. Market cap of 114 million, so not that high, particularly when you look at the revenue and operational cash flow for the trailing 12 months. So revenue of $61 million, and that has been growing quite well over the last few years, and operational cash flow positive by 13.4 million. Which means because they have net cash of about $14 million, their EV to operational cash flow ratio is 7.5. When I see a number of 7.5 for that ratio, that is suggesting a value company, not a growth company. So some people would argue that even growth companies can be value, and this would be that argument, perfect company for that argument. Sometimes you do get value in growth companies. AVA Group is a growth company, and it's showing great value right now. And that ratio, EV to operational cash flow, is the proof that this growth company is really good value right now. So if you do want more information on this company, they released their Appendix 4C on the 23rd of April. The other day, I found this interesting article on Livewire written by Marcus Burns from Spheria. The title of the article was "The Key to Finding Small Cap Winners Amid a King Tide." I do recommend having a find or trying to find this article and reading it, because it did for me clear up some things I did find quite confusing. And one of the things I did find confusing was I was seeing that negative operational cash flow companies were performing quite well compared to a lot of companies that had positive operational cash flow. It should be reversed. Those companies with positive operational cash flow should be outperforming those other companies. But over the past 12 months, it's been flipped completely. And this is a graph that shows that. That top line, that orange gold line, is the returns for those companies with a negative operational cash flow. This is from Bloomberg data with the simple average return of stocks between $50 million market cap and $3 billion market cap. And the returns of those companies with a positive operational cash flow much less than those other companies. So this is complete opposite to what you should expect. There is a reason why I have a particular obsession with finding ASX small cap companies which are operational cash flow positive. And this graph perfectly shows you that. This is a 20-year returns looking at those small cap companies on the ASX which are positive, which have positive operational cash flow, to a benchmark, and to those ASX small companies which have a negative operational cash flow. And you can see the returns of those through three groups of companies. Those companies with a positive operational cash flow have a return over the past 20 years of 872%. The benchmark is at 323%, and those ASX small cap companies with a negative operational cash flow have a return over the past 20 years of negative 5%. And this should be pretty clear proof why I'm obsessed with finding those small cap ASX companies which have a positive operational cash flow. So I'd like to thank Marcus Burns from Spheria with providing us in that article with this graph. A perfect example why or how powerful being operational cash flow positive is. Now on to the Appendix 4C for AVA Group. and straight to the cash flows from operating activities. The first thing I always look at here, and there are two numbers I'm really keen on looking at. The first one is receipts from customers. Now, I do have some expectations when it comes to receipts, and for AVA Group, for the Q3, it did meet my expectations. I would have preferred a little bit higher number than 14.8 million. I would have preferred to see 16, 17 million, but 14.8 million largely met my expectations on the low side. But more importantly was whether the company was operational cash flow positive or negative, and for the quarter, they were positive by $3 million. Now, you'll probably notice when you look at the beginning cash of the quarter and the end cash, they did lose about $1.7 million of cash for the quarter. So by the end of the quarter, they only had $11.7 million of cash. So how can that be if they were operational cash flow positive? Well, during the quarter, they did give their shareholders $4.5 million of dividends. Now, I'm not going to talk about why I hate dividends in this video, but I would have preferred if the company maintained that money and put it to growth initiatives, something like that. I don't like dividends, particularly for companies like this. I prefer those, the management of these companies retain those dividends for growth. When you look at the receipts history for AVA Group, you see exactly what you expect to see for a growth company, and that is an upwards trend in receipts, going from $4 million in October 2017 to $14.8 million in the most recent quarter. So when you calculate the compound quarterly growth rate, you get a number of 9%. That's analyzed at 36%. That is the very definition of a growth company. Now, someone might argue with me, particularly a bear, would say, well, if you look at the past 4 quarters, receipts have gone sideways. And then I would argue, counter-argue, that if you look at the period between January 2019 and April 2020, receipts during that period went sideways as well. And then you saw a massive jump in receipts between April 2020 and July 2020 from 9 million to 15.7 million. And funnily enough, that coincided with the significant re-rating in AVA Group's share price. So you never know. And it's also coincided, I think, with the Indian military defense contract. That money's starting to come in as well. So you never know when the new contracts are going to be signed and when that new money will flow into the company. So I do think when you look at this graph, an upward slope in the receipts trend, this is a growth company and they have a lot in the pipeline moving forward as well. So if you take all that into consideration, the fact they are a growth company, when you look at the valuation of the company, very attractive at these prices. I just want to show you 2 charts for AVA Group, and the first one is the 5-year weekly chart. If you go back to 2015-16, when the company was named something else, I think it was like Future Fibers, the share price was as high as $1 at one point, and then the share price went through a massive downtrend, went from $1 to 10 cents, a perfect don't catch a falling knife scenario. And then for about 3 years, the share price consolidated between 10 and 20 cents. There was a potential breakout in July 2018, but that potential breakout was met with fairly low or weak volume because the market was not that interested. And typically, when you do see a potential breakout met with fairly low volume, it usually fails. And this was definitely the case in 2018. Now compare that to July 2020 when we did have a real breakout in AVA Group's share price. You just see there the volume with that breakout, massive volume. And the reason there was massive volume with that breakout was because it was all around a positive operational cash flow quarter for the company. You can just see how powerful it is when a company becomes operational cash flow positive. And the share price went from about 14 cents to a high of 75 cents. And finally, just a 6-month daily chart for AVA Group, because this chart shows you when the share price reached its high in late November, early December, just below 80 cents. And ever since that high, the share price has been in a downtrend. So what I'm waiting for now is that downtrend to be broken. Now, I am hopeful because it does look like 45 cents could be a level of support for AVA Group's share price, because it has hit 45 cents 3 times, and the other 2 times it hit it, it's bounced off it and moved towards 50 cents. So ideally, what I'd like to see over the next few months is the share price to go sideways, break through the downtrend, and then develop into a new uptrend. So that's the ideal scenario moving forward. But I'm not a soothsayer. I can't read the future. And all I can do is react to what happens with the share price, and the share price just reacts to what the market is thinking about the company at that period of time. So who knows what's going to happen with the share price? Just react. Best advice I could give is react to what the share price is doing. If it falls through 45 cents, that would be bearish. If it consolidates for a period, that would be bullish potentially, but only bullish if it confirms that a new uptrend does develop at some point in the future. The ideal scenario is they were signed some new massive contract, and that could put a bullet up the share price, move it through the downtrend, and then we could see a new uptrend develop quite quickly. And that is all I've got for this video of AVA Group, one of my favorite companies on the ASX. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you do have any comments about this company or anything else in this video, leave it, comment in the comment section, and I'll answer it eventually. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, so if you do need to seek financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's all for this video. Have a good day. Bye.